como si estuviéramos en una sesión de doblaje. Estoy haciendo ya aquí el ruido. Vamos a esperar un poco.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being heute with us. I'm Isabel Vázquez, and once again, it's a pleasure to welcome you to this roundtable of the serious day of the San Sebastian Film Festival. This activity, as you know, is organized by the festival's industry department and is part of the conversations section. It has the support of the Creative Europe Desk Media Euskadi. Media supports the production of series and online content through the calls for proposals for co-development and TV online content to be published in the coming months. If you want information about these calls and grants and other possibilities, financial possibilities through media, you can contact the responsibles in the media offices that are here around in the festival, during the festival. And you can, in addition to the offices present in all media countries, these days you will be able to find several of its representatives at the media stand that is located in the industry area of the Kursal, as you know. This day, this serious day, has the title Portrait of a Generation, Effect 2000. The other day, someone very, very young, so young person that was not able to remember that conspiranoic and fear that we had when we thought that everything was going to break down due to the change of the century. And when we call young people to be very being not present, we forget about that time when we really thought that computers were not going to be able to adapt to the change of the century. And the recent reality is that computers, both for text and numbers, can learn very fast. And this is one of the topics that we are going to tackle today, probably at the end, because we don't want to spend all the time discussing about AI. But we want to go back to that time when we feared the change of the century and everything that is related to television and online content, which is serious in the end, and how the way we talk about conflicts, characters, initiatives, and projects has changed throughout the years. And this is what we call a 2000 effect, how everything has changed in the last 25 years, also in the production models. We have Andrea H. Catala, a producer. Andrea began her film training in Venezuela. I come from a producing family, so I was starting producing since I was a child, practically. So after studying in Chile, she made her directorial debut with Nena, Salúdame al Diego. In Spain, he co-founded the production company Amor y Lujo. In 2022, she joined Suma Content as head of development and executive producer on series such as Cardo 2, Mariliendre, Vestidas de Azul, and Superstar. She's a student of Berlinale Talents and Puentes. Cristina Merino is original content executive for Movistar Plus. Cristina has been part of the development and creative production of Marbella, Muertos, Poquita Fe, and she has 20 years experience in pay TV. It's the 2000 effect again. And she has worked as a commissioning editor for non-fiction, editorial design, and communication as well. So she has a large experience. Xavi Zabaleta is a screenwriter and producer, partner of Pausoka Entertainment. His latest series has been a hit. I had already seen it, but we will talk about it later. It is a series called Desaparecido. It was shot in Basque and Spanish. And I'm sorry, but my Basque is not very good. He has created and written series such as Guasen, Asi Berriak, Aitaren Etxea, or Ayes al Dia. And he has written and produced the film El Vasco, The Basque Person, premiered at the San Sebastian Film Festival. It's going to be shown Wednesday and Thursday on the Velódromo. And this conversation, as always, is going to be very open. I'm going to allocate some topics, but we will give you, the audience, also the floor for you to participate at the end. And let's start with a little bit of controversy. Let's put a little bit of salt in life. Television, for many, many people, was worthless until they watched The Sopranos. And there is a lot of people that thought that around 1998 everything changed and television became something good, something cool. And I don't agree with that idea of television revolution or the golden age of series. Revolution or evolution? I believe it's more than like an evolution with milestones. What do you think? Is it a revolution or evolution, Andrea?
Pues yo creo que en términos de los contenidos.
Okay, so I think there is an evolution in the tools. So at the beginning we have the television director, and then we move on to cinema. And so television had a space to create very interesting things. What was revolutionary with The Sopranos is the relationship between the audience and a direct content that allows the television channels to change their programming. And it allows them to try out different things. And I believe the television network started thinking about what people wanted to see. So maybe it's an evolution with revolutionary milestones. I believe it is a very revolutionary evolution. We have been talking about the 2000 revolution or the 2000 effect. And I believe this is, it prepared the way for Les Sopranos that really affected all of us and changed everything. I believe it's been an evolution. And of course, I work in a platform, so in the end, The Sopranos was an order by HBO to David Chase, yes. Well, Matthew Weiner was part of his team, but it was David Chase who was in charge of it. And he presented them in HBO the story of these people that were their friends, the people whom he was in relationship. And it was a little bit weird, but HBO decided to go for it because they thought that maybe people who were keen on boxing and liked boxing and paid for boxing matches would like to watch a television series about a group of gangsters from New Jersey. So it is true that the series at the beginning didn't find the right place, but it was the beginning of what we have now. It has to do with the traditional television because Matthew Weiner was not born at that time. But that change was a milestone. We used to watch a lot of television series. Some of them were very, very good in the narrative, from the narrative point of view. I remember MASH, M-A-S-H. You remember those medical doctors? Yes, that was a very avant-garde series. No, you're talking about the film. Well, they started with the film and then they continue with the television series. So it's the fiction television series that has been the most watched in the television history in the United States. It's 12 seasons, so it's incredible. And it's false comedy. But that type of content was already there. It was already existing, and The Sopranos decided to give it up a notch. And I believe the evolution of it is the point where we are now with the platforms and the Y2K effect, etc. And I believe that the change consisted of giving the power to the author so that their view reaches the audience, and so that the authors can make their product different, and so every platform can have a personality. So we have many topics to talk about. We will talk about the influence of Canal Plus and Movistar Plus and the HBO model. And you will see that we talk about the American paradigm, or the American paradigm, because it has changed the world. And of course, there is a television evolution in each country, in Spain as well. But I don't know if we can draw the conclusion that a very definitive trait of the 20th century is the generalization starting from the cable television in the United States. And so this is the change of paradigm in the 20th century. But you were also mentioning technology and the evolution of technology, because we have the milestone of cable television that is paying for content and not being subjected to the programming of the television network, the restriction of content that was in the United States at the beginning. And then there is the internet, and then there is the download of content, which accelerated the development of platforms, especially in Spain. So what is your perception of the technological part of it in relation to the change of contents?
Hombre, para mí, Canal Plus, que lo has comentado antes, sí que fue...
Well, Canal Plus was really a milestone here. I remember that at home. For example, my parents paid for Canal Plus, and sometimes we sat together to watch Friends or The Sopranos. And it was a very strange thing because not everybody paid a subscription to Canal Plus, and there were other television series. But it is true that The Sopranos and Friends gathered the whole family before the television set, and it brought some series that were not general content. And Canal Plus was the first door to different contents. I believe this is a fundamental element in Spain. Of course, filming has celebrated now 15 years, and they were discussing precisely that contents were updated when they saw that they could disappear due to these paid networks. Isabel was part of a group in Madrid that they had a regular meeting to drink beer and talk about series they liked, and I knew about that, and because one friend of mine was part of that group, and we were filming Girls, and we decided to join that group and show them the project. And all these people from this group were developing their knowledge about television series through Canal Plus, because we were not aware of all that. And we started being aware of it through downloading content. And now it is, we can see it now. If you have access to something, you consume it. You use it, obviously. It's like if you are looking at a window in a bakery, you go in and buy something. So obviously, Da Vinci, the Da Vinci history and everything that derives from downloading content. And I believe there is a generational gap there, or a change. We knew where to download things, or we had friends that knew how to do it, and older people didn't know how to do it, and they were wondering, where did you get that? How did you download that? And so for 20-year-olds, this was common knowledge, and for older people, that was very strange. And nowadays, it is different because we are all using content in the same platforms. And at that time, there were the young people who had access to these contents, and the ones that were older and didn't have access to them. When you're talking about downloading content, what is the year that you're talking about? 2004 till Netflix. So 2003, you were able to download things already. Okay, because I'm thinking about Chile, and this is different. I talk about 2004 because it is the moment of House and Lost, and a series of a different group of series that are mythical. The Golden Girls, and because everything was there, and films as well. It was like happy hour. It was so nice. In Venezuela, we had a channel that was called Sonian Television, and it was a network for the whole Latin America, and you had everything there. One day it was Felicity, the other day was The Sopranos, the other day, and it was combined with the linear programming. Everything was linear there. So the problem is that there were some contents here that were for free, well, for free theoretically, and then this generation changed everything, changed the thing that we program, because we need to buy. You need to buy HBO, and HBO was programming things on a Sunday, and in 3 months there is a gap here, And yes, but you can download it in Emule tomorrow, and they didn't even know what Emule was. So of course we needed to subtitle the content, but the next day was already subtitled and ready to download in Emule. So HBO was saying no, just we will program it in 3 months' time, but it was not possible to continue like that. So everything that belonged to a programming that was thought for films, etc., and very linear, it's changed completely because the programming depended on the release date in the United States, and 2 days later you could download it already. And so we were very proud, and we could say, I have downloaded this. And there were people that subtitled it for free and very fast. I don't know how they did it. I have DVDs that I could edit with downloaded subtitles from the net. So I don't know where people downloaded the subtitles, but they were there. They were there.
Now they do it with AI. We'll see that one day. Series were produced, and maybe the Golden Girls is an exception, because that was very special. She was an author. She was atypical in all senses. But the traditional television was by Aaron Spelling, Cannell, Bosco, Tom Fontana. New Millennium is the year of the author, with Mad Men, with The Soprano. That was the era of authors. And there was been a claim by the writer, by script writers, as the real authors, as the central figure, what should be the central figure in fiction on TV. Yes, what I believe is that you're right. We know that in TV, the writer, the script writer, the creator, the author commands everything, and we are at the center. In cinema, it's more the director, but on TV, yes, it's the authors. In Venezuela, it's soap operas, telenovela. Elias Yayo Martinez, it's always been like that. The figure, the center, is the writer. The writer writing 150 episodes. In the 90s here, the Venezuelan soap opera was big time. We were all TV binging. Por Estas Calles was a series that we didn't see it. Cristal, Ana Rosa Topacio, the Inés Duarte's secretary. That was a typical Venezuelan soap opera. That was Ruby. That was a famous series. She was very poor. And in Venezuela, it's the first soap opera, Por Estas Calles. It's not only about love stories and conflicts. It's about telling the problems in the streets, political problems, etc. And then after Por Estas Calles, there were 1 or 2 attempts, and then Betty La Fea came, because there was money behind that. Ugly Betty. Thank you. Yes, the authors, The Sopranos, Mad Men, The Wire, Twin Peaks. The author was central in Twin Peaks. In series, the writer, the script writer is setting the path, and in cinema, it's a director. But here, it took some time. It's coming. In Movistar, the platform Movistar, we have this, but in some other platforms, it's not the same, and not even the producers. In Movistar, has been putting the authors in the center, but hasn't always been the same. The script writer was not as important as the directors in the past, because script writers were not very well known here. They were not famous, and platforms need to give names, famous names. And directors were more popular, and people didn't know the writers. In fact, some of the people have directed the rest of the episodes. Normally, it's one famous director directing the first one, but not the rest. The series by Diego, Adolfo, and Cristobal. Well, these script writers are so famous now. They are now the stars. A couple of years ago, there was an anniversary. Aquí no hay quien viva, that was the famous series in Spain. And a colleague at the time did an interview, very interesting interview to Alberto Caballero. He was telling all the anecdotes about the series, and he finally wrote a book. Javier P. Martin, that's the oral story of Aquí no hay quien viva. It's a fantastic book. I read that, and I think, oh, Alberto Caballero should be famous by now, and his sister too. In the last few years, this has changed. And these script writers are so famous. They are now very prestigious in all platforms. In social media, they are now more and more visible because they have lots of fans. So script writers are very famous at the moment. But in the US, these guys should be the kings. Los Muertos SL, another series that they've made for paying platforms. Then now something more authorial, but they have been forgotten for many years. People writing open comedies, well, they were the nephews of José Luis Moreno. They were always in the shade. They were like the forgotten professionals. In Aquí no hay quien viva and in Se Avecina, they have a fantastic author. It's popular, it's pop culture forever, and they just want to have those script writers on pay-per-view platforms. Okay, now, after the Y2K effect, the beginning of this century, it was the beginning of Los Hombres Difíciles. There was a book about this, the first wave of authors, and all of them were men. And the script writing rooms were full of men. With Mad Men, they had some certain problems, but there was a male vision. And at that time, the TV was just a thing that was watched by women. So the male presence and then the prestige. Do you think that prestige on TV appeared when it became more male? But little by little, women, after 10 years, have been more present on TV. But the prestige came because of the male presence. I don't know if this is the case. Vince Gilligan, Matthew Weiner, Patrick Keane, Sex in New York. It's a man behind the scenes. Yes. Who was Shonda? Shonda was doing. Yeah, Shonda came later, much later. 2008, Shonda. Sex in the City. Yeah. The prestige is male, or is this a status quo and it's like it was and nobody could think about something else? Donna Dunham wasn't there, Shonda wasn't there. I don't know if prestige is male or because male was the only possible thing to happen on TV. On TV and in other channels, we didn't see women in the offices. We didn't see women in offices. In some departments, like communications and marketing departments, that was more frequent to see bosses who were women. But in the core departments of companies, the operations department, how many operations directors do we have who were women in Spain? Very few. General directors, mostly men. financial departments, mostly men, and content directors, mostly men. Programming chief, some women appeared to hold these positions. Not in the purchases department, but most of the bosses were men. But now it seems very far away because it's changing, but it was very frequent to see only men. During the meetings for a release, we were alone. Sometimes I was the only woman, and I was keeping quiet. And we had high heels, and we were so different from the rest. So producers, most of them, at least in my life, I've always seen male producers. They had women with them, but they never took the floor during the meetings. We never spoke. We were subordinates in most of the cases. So there was no room for women at the time. And this is a typical model, the tormented man. Where does prestige come from? Where is prestige? In newspapers, basically they are directed by men. And men discover that there are TV series that are very good, and they like it. Maybe men were attracted to TV series at the time. TV channels were more related to women viewers, but now when suddenly series were presented on TV, men were attracted to that, and newspapers started to look at that, and they were interested by series, and the prestige came by because of the presence of TV series on screen. Then radios were directed by men too. So you may be right. Maybe men never watched TV before The Sopranos? It seems absurd. They didn't say, I'm proud, I'm happy to watch TV. If there's sex and mafia, I like it because I'm a man. Because there were many cliches, many stereotypes. And when it becomes serious, I'm interested because I'm a man. The rest was for women. Hill Street Song or Police in New York, that was a much more genre type of series, X-Files, etc. But when it resembles live, when there's no content restriction, that's what happened on cable TV, that's when men started to watch TV. Do you think, what are the titles? Do you think that there's more visibility of female authors? And who are these female authors that you identify as the new wave? Well, from Spain or in Denmark or in the US? Elena Dunham, Isa Ray, Michaela Cole, Scapy Valley, Sally Winboard. I have a photo of her on my desktop. I just dream about her. I had the opportunity to talk to her during the pandemic, but I had a conversation with her. I would like to be in the photo. These women are very powerful. They are very, very powerful women. Sonia Lander, she's an empire. And many producers are women too. I was thinking about the men and their presence. Little by little, there were small waves, but in the streaming world, all the production is launching new content, and there are new waves and some exceptions. Recently, there was a study carried out in Spain. The coordinator is Bienestar España. Cajosa is sitting there.
Los datos reales son que
Real data say that women scriptwriters are only 30%. That's the absolute number. So, you see the percentage? There's still a lot to do. For you, what are the titles significant titles? What are the references and the benchmarks or the guilers? Gailers? Feedback? Girls, okay.
Fue una pasada de serie, pero yo creo que Girls sí que marcó.
That was very important.
La están viendo ahora.
Es
Entonces
que
yo creo
parece que ha
que
envejecido muy bien.
Yes, because I didn't see it again, but Girls and other series were very famous. Friends compared with Girls. Suddenly, Girls came around, and it's about friendship, but it's a different way of seeing it. It's very original. Girls, for me, was a milestone. Lena Dunham, in 2012, she was 23 only. She was very young. And she was supported by a man. She wasn't alone. Maybe this happened to you. When I saw that, I didn't know what she was doing. What is she doing? Showing cellulite on screen. I think it's the first episode when they start to fuck. And she realizes that things go wrong, and she was sitting on her legs and knees, and every time the series was on, I didn't want to show that to a man. So if you're a guy, you can be Homer Simpson, but Lena Dunham couldn't be a fat woman with cellulitis. A girl shouldn't do that. But in 2 episodes, this just disappeared. All the stereotypes disappeared. It was very smart and very joyful indeed. She's the example, she's the benchmark, the year 2000 author, and she is introducing this change in our perception, how we tell our stories, the freedom. Because I shouldn't do things because you like it. So sometimes you need to recognize that. But this has changed for good. And I read that since 2023, people are watching that on TikTok. During the pandemic, everybody was going to die. And I remember one night I watched Panic in the Park. Panic in Central Park. It was referring to Panic in Little Park, the first movie by Al Pacino. It's a bottle episode. Alison, she was perfect, and she finds her ex-boyfriend. And then they go dancing, and everything is a panic at the end because he's a drug addict. But there's a love story, and it's a very nice cinematographic homage. You spoke about Micaela Coel. Can you tell us the story about this series, because they're not very popular and maybe people don't know about them? Maybe, yes, these women receive the inheritance of Elena Dunham, and these women start to speak about themselves, about their interests, because both are Afro-American, and they speak about their reality.
And realities that make it even more, well, they put it out there. There are no references, and they start talking about it, and they use comedy, incredible comedy, and make Micaela go with a series that talked about topics that happen to us women and that are really hidden. And her work of art is monumental. And then I didn't follow up what she did afterwards. And another one I would like to mention, and I'm very bad at names, I'm sorry, the Orange is the New Black. Jenny Cohan, that's her name. Yeah, well, thank you, Coti. I was thinking about if Aaron Spelling knew that a black woman would write a comedy on forcing a black woman, he would die again. So you were also talking about the exception. There is one series, and even those who sign up a contract, a literary contract after a series, they had to face a lot of criticism, even because of their looks, etc. She was also ill, and now she has a new series, but 10 years after Girls. And I saw the first chapter in Industry last year, and it's devoted to her. And the bridge is the Fleabag is well. Some of you already said Fleabag is the series that is most mentioned in any meeting of producers. Why don't you bring me a Fleabag, a new Fleabag? Because nobody takes risks. Everybody wants a Fleabag without any changes, without any updates. And so they have done interpretations on that, but there is no real new work. It's all reinterpretation. So there was no another film. And she starts writing with Danny Glover, and in the end, the work is by Danny Glover, and she leaves the project. It's Indiana Jones. Yes, there is one James Bond that was written by her. And there was another director that asked her as a script writer. I don't remember who. Well, it is true that these huge milestones are difficult to follow up. And there is a breakthrough, but there is no continuity. I'm thinking about the time that elapsed between Girls and Fleabag, and it was not that long. But if you watch both of them, a lot of things have changed. One is British, the other one is not. And they both start on bed, really. And the first 5 minutes, in Fleabag are incredible. It's like, wow, what is this? And in fact, she starts by saying the first sentence is talking about sexual practices that are very explicit. Yes, it's that big, my dick. So there is an evolution that might not be very refined, but I believe we are closer to that. Now, many of the projects that we received, many of them, they are based on Fleabag, or they take references from Fleabag. I don't know if you remember that scene where the father sent them to a feminist talk. Yes, the daughter, and they are asked, do you prefer to have 5 years more of life or a sculptural body? And everybody raises their hand for the second option, and they look like, what? So that shows the change after Girls, and from Girls to Fleabag. The only person, and it is really curious, the only person that is that has power is Shonda, who has done traditional television, and she has her own projects. But in contrast to Sorkin, who stopped doing television because he needed to shoot everything himself, and so she was on cocaine, otherwise it was not possible, she delegates. So she writes, but she's a producer as well. And she can distinguish very well what is the role that she is playing, if she is creating or producing. And she has created an empire with her brand and her way of explaining things. And in 2008, don't forget that the opening of Grey's Anatomy was in that day, and it was like, what, a series about doctors who have sex among each other and all changed couples, and what is it going to be successful? And this has something to do with Lena Dunham, and maybe not with Fleabag because it is fiction, real fiction, but another topic that we were discussing, in which we agree, is self-fiction. Is this a topic for you? Because I believe it was you who talked about Master of None, and some other fiction. Yes, we are in the impudence era. I believe that we are in a new turn of events. I believe, I think of social networks and the evolution in social networks. And I should not be talking about this because I don't create content on social media. But previously, we started posting pictures of ourselves in Instagram. Then we go to a film, and then we make pictures of ourselves going to the place. And now we have evolved, and we shoot the cursor and we write that we are watching a film, but we are not there anymore. And there are many youngsters who don't have their own picture on their profile. And why? Because it can somebody can take it and make a meme out of it. So this is a change. But not so long ago, and in general, people who read new projects or receive projects, many of them were self-referenced. They were self-fictions. Many people have the need to explain themselves, and they take reference in Fleabag. And in their first years, Master of None, they all had this sense of, it is me, but it's not me, but it's a way of naming the what is not easy to name. We are fans of Louis, for example. For me, it's the best of the best in comedy. And this is what another contemporary has been doing, Woody Allen. Woody Allen, it's a reference. And Woody Allen, it's incredible. I believe in Blue Jasmine it was mentioned that Woody Allen, being watched by Woody Allen was the best. And I believe her work is related to Woody Allen. Is New York explained by Woody Allen, but in another way? It's more lower class, not upper class. What was that Reinder series? My Reinder puppy, or I don't remember that. Do you remember that series? That was the Netflix revolution last year. A Baby Reinder was it. And I believe it is by a Scottish scriptwriter that was suffering for a long, long time because he was forced sexually. And this sounds terrible, and it was a huge trauma. And it is a comedy, but if you think about the content, it's terrible. It's really terrible. High Maintenance was a series that I was very interested in the framework of self-fiction, also influenced by Woody Allen. And it had this very funny, very fun format, a guy that is delivering hemp to different places, and they stayed for a while in the life of those people, and it was very light but very dramatic at the same time. And the whole story that was behind the two of them that used to be married, but they are not married anymore, and all that universe. And I was reading about it, and I really enjoyed it. And in Suma, we really like self-fiction, or maybe at least one part when someone talks about something that is really their own. Cardo, no, but Cardo is not Claudia, not Anna. It's experience that they have gone through. And Martha's zum Beispiel, for example, and the Javis, and in Superstar. It's a lot of Nacho Vigalondo, but we could talk about this for hours, and we don't have the time for it. And then in self-fiction, when we talk about famous people, there is the self-fiction by the scriptwriter who is showing themselves and showing their personality and their way of living things, and very intimate and very empathic. But it also happens with fictionalized real stories of famous people. And I remember one of the pioneer series of pay-per-view television or the platforms in Spain, because Canal Plus was HBO in Spain. And it has been said by themselves. So it is true that David Trueba brought us this project, and you know how he is, and we loved it. And I don't know, I think it was this year or last year, the previous year, Joaquin Phoenix had done Ames Sistiak. It was a mockumentary on himself, but it was very extreme, very exaggerated, and we found it very funny. Of course, the references were different, but we thought that it was very, very funny because it was very modern, and so we went for it immediately. And I always explain that when he brought the first scenes, we watched them, and my boss said, "Oh, I loved it. It's fantastic. When it is going to be ready for production?" And the serious world is like that. And yes, Ignatius also had a kind of a mockumentary. Yes, Ignatius. It was a masterpiece, really. I think he got an Emmy award, and it was in the same line. In Jury Duty, Gene Master played himself. And this series was between fiction and reality, although I don't believe that it is true. I think it's just fiction. And talking about Friends, Friends was a series that took Marc LeBlanc as Marc LeBlanc. Do you remember that series when he played himself, and he was a star that didn't want to work? And yes, I don't remember the name. That was very interesting because it was a studio project. And of course, there were a lot of cameo appearances, and we were always waiting for the next famous person to appear. And I was thinking that social platforms, social networks are very open, very there. And it allows people to create these mockumentaries. And another series that you also mentioned in this framework is The Office. Well, The Office for us and for many people that comes with their projects, The Office is a very clear reference for every sitcom. A lot of The Office is to be recognized in the Caballero siblings. And I believe that this is a trait of the sitcoms we were enjoying lately. It's like, well, I know people that when they are down, not really depressed, but down, they watch The Office. It's like the happy place for many people. And it reminded me of the Caballero because they are able to create those very crazy characters that are very bad people, by the way, but at the same time, they are treated with compassion. And in the end, you kind of love them. It is a very loving comedy. They are not despised. They are not looked down. And they are losers. And I believe it is easier to empathize with losers, despite them being really bad people. And it is strange somehow. And this is symptomatic of the comedy we're watching nowadays, the comedy that transcends. There are comedies that are really, I don't know, some of them, I don't know if they are comedy or mockumentaries or what they are. I don't know how to explain Paquita Salas, for example. David Lynch could have thought about something like that, because Twin Peaks is so Martian for the 90s television. Even for the platforms that we have nowadays, which are reinventing television, and we will slowly come to today. But it has no paragon. It's not comparable to anything. And who thought? What was that one with a woman that went to New York? I don't remember, but it was very Martian as well. It was crazy. It was an old woman that went to New York, and they were following her because she was just a very weird character. It's a very funny series. I was thinking about Paquita Salas, which is another mockumentary, a false documentary, and it is also very kind. I don't know if I'm linking things here that are not easy to link, but at the beginning of the century, we had that topic with cruelty and difficult men and anti-heroes, these very bad men that you fall in love with because they were very, very bad. But in Suma's work, I find also this kind of focus on kindness in Paquita Salas, yes, and in Superstar as well. Everybody was waiting for us to see what was our point of view, and I think it was very difficult to find the tone and the point of view that Claudio and Maria found, because the idea was he wanted that every chapter was close to the point of view of that character, and that it could be understood as the absolute truth. And you cannot judge it. What you said in Y2K, it's true. And from that starting point, it is very difficult to understand the characters. So you can only do it if you understand them from that time. And in the case of Paquita Salas, I was not at Suma yet, but as a consumer, and since I know them for a long time now, I believe it is their own universe, their hobbies universe. Yes, they are showing the pulsation of everyday's life. They are very good at that. They know what to do at every moment, testing the waters. I don't know how they do it, really. I work with them every day. And they are the producers I work with, and I try to give life to every project in the relationship with them. And they are very intuitive. I know that they repeat themselves ad infinitum, but it is what they are, and they laugh, and they have crazy ideas. But you have worked with them, you know them. No, I haven't worked with them directly. Not yet. Not yet. Well, I thought you had. I thought you had. Another thing that they are very good at is faith. Sundays here And the following days, you will see the new film of Félix de Arriozúa, and it deals with faith. And I have realized that another thing of the new millennium and the new generations is that faith is back in. Jesus Christ is coming back big time. There were previous generations, due to tradition and compulsory religion and tradition, etc., especially tradition. At least those who are here, we were raised with the trend of you have to believe in this. And that's why we rejected it, because it was like coming from our parents. Not everybody, I'm generalizing here, but young people here, it's the opposite. Since they were raised in a lay society, they embrace religion, Christianism more particularly, and the Messiah is a kind of conversation about faith, and they watch it, and the La Llamada, the call, it's also that kind of series.
When I started to work with the Javis, they were doing the call on theater, first season, and they had nothing, and I was just getting to San Sebastian. Can you make a teaser for the play? What it is about? A person feeling a call, hearing a call. Yes, a call from God, not a phone call. From a very late education, I didn't understand what the call was. Holy Camp, that was the title. And they demonstrated with lay camp that this is real. Because I couldn't understand. When I watched the premiere, and I made a crazy teaser, but it didn't connect with their vision. When I went to the movies, I said, oh, wow, their universe can become another universe. It's very traditional. It's from pop culture, from love and respect. And with the Messias, they've done the same, but with a lot of love, but it's the bad part of religion, the bad part of faith. It's two sides of the same coin. But what is it? They do it with respect and love, and they can get into dangerous areas because there's no judgment. It's in the 90s. This could have been different. Xavi, you were speaking about young people. What about audience fragmentation? In the last 25 years, this has changed everything. Was fragmented. It's not MASH. There's no audience measuring as we had with MASH and Médicos de Familia, and what everybody was watching the same in the families. But there's a common element since then. Trying to sit down with youngsters, because young people who were never there on the sofa bed with you. But you have products, successful products, related to adolescents, youngsters, young people not watching what should be watched. And then what is your conception with comedies, with musicals, with crime series? What about the young people and adolescents? In general, platforms reject that, but then the audiences are very good. In Netflix, the K-pop queens, and I suppose there were children and adolescents watching that, but then it works well for adults. Audience segmentation, yeah. Platforms don't want to get into that type of series, even though the results are very good. ETB wants to get this audience in Basque. So there's some pressure because the audience here want to have their content in Basque, and it works fine. The lack of content that's good for us because we don't produce a lot, but it works fine. But we adults, we like that too. Sagertuta, it's the series that we did in 2 languages, one for Netflix and another one for EDTV Primeran. Primeran was the most popular series by people between 18 and 30 years of age. We were in the top 10 in Netflix, so older people are watching it. I was in the street and a couple came to me. They were very old, and they said, you are the series, yes. What's the end? I cannot tell you the ending. Maybe I won't be living by the time your series finishes. I didn't tell him the ending. But this couple, they were very old and they were watching that. It's about shame. When people don't want to say, I watched Elite in just one weekend, because that was for adolescents. But older people watch it too. We are in the middle of a demographic winter. So maybe something doesn't work. Another title. Is Black Mirror. It has revealed itself to be the Cassandra of our time. A question. Were dystopias less frightening before because we believed them to be less possible? Years and years. Yes, I watched years and years, and these things happen in years and years. Yes, I was so frightened when I watched years and years. We had it in our platform. We had to watch it. And when I finished watching it, I said, oh, I shouldn't have. The things have happened already. Things are happening now. And what's awaiting in this, you remember the grandma. You wanted to use your credit cards for everything, and there will be no more people behind the tills. I want to watch that because, the ending is bad. So we're talking about the Simpsons and the Saturday Night Live and all the dystopias and all the series about dystopias are becoming real. Battlestar Galactica from the 70s. It was redone at the beginning of this century. It was the revolution of machines, machine domination, but this is happening. I'm going to ask you, what do you think about AI, the generative AI? Now, your answer. You have an opinion. Until recently, I didn't know what was ChatGPT going to do for me. So I went to a workshop and I wanted to know more about ChatGPT. I learned how to use it. And you didn't watch Terminator. Everything is said in Terminator. You don't need to go further. But I don't know what's going to happen with AI because it's frightening, especially you as a producer, when you never get the actors and you see all that AI is able to do, and it can solve 500,000 problems a day. It's very useful. Talking about dystopias, they are fulfilling, but the bad things are fulfilled, not the good things. The problem is that the bad events in the dystopias are becoming real. So everyone with your own screen, but this happened, yes, and not the flying scooter. Ben Affleck has a video which is viral. Ben Affleck is viral. Every time he breathes, he becomes viral. He's viral all the time. I thought after so many videos, he was asked about this AI, and he said, well, he's not that idiot. We already watched Terminator, so we know what happens there. He told things that are happening now, and very shortly this is going to happen. Very technical jobs in filmmaking, like post-production, in visual arts, VFX. Well, these people were very famous in the chain. They were very good professionals, and they were very prestigious. And now this is replaced by AI. How can we stop it? I think the creative part will be more difficult for AI. According to Paul Schrader, the script writer, we know what he thinks. He's a good script writer, but he's has got a very bad character. This week he said, "You think that Robert Redford gives a shit about what you think?" And he's dead. It doesn't matter what he's going to write. We know that the machine is going to do it better. If you say to AI, write a script writer by Paul Schrader, and the machine is going to be better. According to him, we have to stop fighting. I thought the creative part was less under threat. But I was asked to do a demonstration, and I was asked to give the scripts in Desaparecido, and we tested it with the AI. Okay, ask ChatGPT about the psychological profile of the character, or analyze the scripts for the level of intensity. Okay. Ask the machine how they would improve it. It was very logical. I think the ChatGPT was right. But I said, okay, I'm not going to do it. The analysis was very good. We didn't give it the 8 scripts, only 6. And it deduced what happened in the 7th and the 8th. And these episodes were very original, according to me, but the machine knew. Maybe I'm stupid or too idealistic, but I still have hope. In the creative domain, the machines can do things. This should encourage us to be excellent, to go towards excellence, to be less predictable. So we need to be encouraged to continue. Sometimes you cannot renounce it. And then, talking about Paul Schrader's comments, maybe the machine can make a film by Paul Schrader or Tarantino's film, but not the next Tarantino's film. One film is possible, but maybe not the next. That's what Ben Affleck meant. It's a copy of a copy of a copy. So, in fact, there's nothing original behind it. It's a copy of a copy, what AI is able to do, but you can have the idea of Kill Bill is not going to get out of the machine. Maybe a new Kill Bill, a copy of Kill Bill, that's possible. We'll see what happens in the future on a basis. We have something that is already there. The AI is going to do it better, but the creation, the invention out of the blue, that's more difficult for the machine. In my workshop about AI, they said, okay, this is already here. We cannot stop it. It's here to stay. We cannot control it. We don't know what to do with AI. Let's participate. Let's get involved. Until then, I said, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to use it. I don't want to even to think it is here. But now it's here, and it's here to stay. The only possibility that we have is to have a conversation with AI and use it. Well, this is just made to not to respect the copyright of all the people of this content. You can make a Dickens novel, but Dickens was robbing from others, from stealing his books, and now nobody's going to ask you for copyright, but Paul Schrader can ask for copyright. But how can you combat that? Of course, there are specific software to copy the script, any script. When people started to send Miyazaki's drawings, you're 90, you've created a marvelous universe, and now your cousin is sending Miyazaki's drawings. It's all over the place. It's being copied with a Chihiro face. You have all these little characters. But Miyazaki has not been paid for that. So no copyright. Have many other questions? Hybridization. Do you refer to specific series or title? Hybridization, not just genre or themes, but durations. Now we have half-an-hour episodes, comedies, very long comedies. When Ali McBeal wanted to do a comedy just for 1 hour, but then it became a sitcom, the abandonment of sitcom coming back. And then, in your case, Xavi, because of the regional aspect, globalization, consuming content from the whole world, and standardization. My question is, we're expanding our territories, but we are doing the same finally. Everything is open. Borgen is fine, but Borgen is like the West Wing. It's a direct inheritor of the West Wing. And after Borgen, there are many Borgens. I don't know if we're winning or if we're losing, if we're repeating the same. Well, depends. Even if we live in a globalized world full of AI and many dangers around, it's true that we get closer, more familiar with something that is ours, something that resembles us, because it's familiar to us, so we are more attracted to this type of content because it's close to us and we get identified with what we see, because we're attracted to more local products. What you produce for young adult content that you produce in ETB, this is precisely the success of this series, because youngsters identify with that and they recognize themselves in those characters. But Borgen, in the case of Borgen, if we were able to do Spanish Borgen or similar to Borgen, this would be very successful, because at the end of the day, Borgen is fantastic, but it's a Danish woman going to Greenland. So it's a bit exotic for us. But if this Borgen is localized here, it will work. I think we can do something with that. In Canal Plus, the producer of Hierro calls it thriller with a view. It's what the Nordics did, thrillers with views. Well, they do, like they make 20 a year. In the Spanish series, not everything is in Madrid. In the past, everything was Madrid. And it's invaluable, because see people that looks like you, they speak like you, they're concerned by the same problems and themes as you, has value. But it's more localized and more close to our audiences. And I think this could be very successful. We will have 10 minutes for questions if you want to ask questions. I don't know, and I would like to make a conclusion of the session. Daily episodes are still very successful. The Latino model soap operas one episode a day. That Shonda is very famous in pay-per-view, in open TV channels. Friends is still being watched. It's always the highest on the top 10. Many people watch Friends. Shoots. Seinfeld. No, it's not the same scale. Shoots. There was a reboot during the pandemic, and suddenly was very popular again. This week, The Innocent, the series in Antena 3, there's been rebooting too. And then new phenomena, like The Pit. The perfect combination of today's TV and traditional TV. It's a medical drama with different chapters, independent chapters. So you want to see the next episode, you can watch it in the platform. So it works fine. And then all the platforms want to have the sports rights and all the events. Are we reinventing TV?
And advertisement as well, advertisement breaks. I teach at university, and I've been teaching for 15 years, and I teach them how to write with ad breaks, because it's a very good training. And they complain, there are no ads anymore, there are no ads anymore. Wait a minute, because we're going to see it. We will have to program with ad breaks. So I'm sure that it is coming back, because you need to structure the chapter so that the audience is not disappearing after the break. And it is traditional television, so we are reinventing television. Or can you see another example of this? Some years ago, do you know Elena Neira, who is also a scholar on about television? And when Netflix started, Netflix brought so cool contents and so cool things. It was very cheap, for example. There were no ads. You could watch the whole series non-stop. And they had this brand. They were your friends. They were one member of the family. And it is the contemporary CBS, because they control content. But when they started off at the beginning, they were trying out things. And they hired authors, and they did indie cinema. And I was talking to her one day, and I told her one day they're going to realize how much money they are losing with the ads, because they are a company, they need to make money. And so here we are. Companies need to make money. It is absolutely like that. And television really made money with advertisements. You need to monetize this in a way, because it wasn't for free television. Do you want to participate in the conversation, pose a question to our guests, to our stellar guests today? Anything that we have forgotten? Is there any topic that, or a feature of the new millennium that we have not mentioned? You can tell us if we forgot anything. Another subject, but if you have any idea, just ask for the microphone. But we don't. Oh, Conti wants to say something, so please give her a mic.
Por la charla. Es verdad que cuando vienes a charlas de estas.
It is true that when we come here to these conversations to talk about the past, I feel very, very old. And I was thinking about your work and Isa's case, who is a teacher, university professor. And it is true that we are growing old, but I would like to know what you have seen, what is different, what can be told and what cannot be told, because we have the feeling that this new generation is more open and more diverse, and the diversity in the audiovisual world is not well reflected on television, I must say. And I'm sure that there are things in all the series that you have mentioned that were not, that was not possible to tell before. So we have the feeling that the world is better, but it is also true that we are afraid of doing something wrong, of being exposed in social media, that everybody revolts against what you did, and it's like going back to the past. Let's see. It is true that in our production company, in Suma, we tend to choose projects that are not standardized, that are different, that are new stories, different ways of narrating. And I believe in the case of Suma, it works. And we can put it out there because it's the Javis who have been able to show that what they do as producers, not everything, but most of the things that they do as producers or filmmakers works in some aspect or another, or in all of them. And they have a very particular point of view, a very filmmaker point of view, but they can make it work commercially. And it is their strategy, Javi's strategy. They know how to choose a project, how to make the package, which cameos to choose, cameo appearances, all the marketing process, what they mean in the market as force, as a promotion force. And in our case, our weird projects are still sold. But I don't think this is very common. I believe we live in a kind of bubble, and I'm very happy to live in that bubble because that allows me to do projects that I love. But I don't think I think we are an exception, and I think it has to do with the Javis. As long as they do what is still working, and the Javis know about this. They always say, as long as it lasts or as long as it works. And the day that their point of view stops working, we won't be able to sell our projects, and they will have to adapt probably to what platforms ask. I don't know if I'm answering your question. Well, I believe that we certainly are afraid of making something wrong. In our production company, we are very aware of our messages for the youth. For example, in 2018-19, we had a transgender character in a children's series, and well, it was approved by Y2K, but we are always afraid of doing something wrong. And sometimes the message that we try to launch because we think it's positive, it might be understood in the other way, and then you make a mistake, and the message that you try to disseminate is wrongly understood. And the world is a scary place because Jimmy Kimmel has just been fired for a simple joke. So I think we are in a better world, but that better world can become the source of conflict, and we might go back to the time when we were very afraid of certain topics. In the US, for example, people are already being threatened. So there are licenses that are being threatened, for example. In this line, and after Conchi's question, I believe that when we talk about platforms and content management, there is always a tension or a balance between things that you know that work and things that you know that can give you prestige. I don't like the word prestige, but anyway, that can make a mark or be something transcendental. Of course, nobody is sure about what is going to work or not, because you were talking about Grey's Anatomy, and I remember many conversations where we were doubting about that, and we thought, oh, that series is so horrible, we don't know what to do with it. And it is the largest viewed series in the platform. So imagine when you have to choose at a different level of production at a very early stage. So it is true that there is a point that is related to the work of managers, because they are the bosses. And I don't know Savi's work that much, but Suma's work, I know Suma's work very well. And it is the day where you decide to go for something that might be very good if it works, or very bad if it doesn't. And there is no book that tells you what is going to happen. You try to use all the ingredients to erase possibilities of things going wrong, but you cannot know for sure. And we were talking about The Sopranos before, and there is always someone who has to make the decision to go for something, and all of a sudden it works, and every piece falls into place. And sometimes you work with very experienced teams, and then you have more years of experience, and then the degree of fear decreases. But in the end, there is always something that makes the difference, that gives you the impression that you had nothing to offer that year, or that you should the female messiah, la Messia. Of course, the amount of risk that you are ready to offer to those managers who make the decision is something that is key, because I have a lot of things in my cupboard, but nobody wants it. And I'm talking about my work but it's a general comment. Sometimes many producers say, I want Fleabag, and it's not true, because if I brought you Fleabag at that time, you would have said no. It's like AI. AI can read you Fleabag better, but it cannot come up with a new Fleabag. And when we talk about diversity and these kind of topics, I completely agree with Conchi. And I can tell you that the process is related to the fear that Christina mentioned. You are thinking of topics that are never there. They don't arrive. Even structures, narration structures that might be very daring, and producers tell you, I cannot understand this kind of flashback is not working, and that makes series less interesting, less avant-garde. And it's not like the environment of the Javis, who know themselves and they trust themselves. But if I send a chapter that starts with the end, it is not understood. And there are other concepts, like if you are on call in a hospital and you start telling the call work from one character at the beginning and from the other character from the end, and they meet up in the middle, that's crazy. And what you were saying about the sensitivity of new generations, I think this is key. New generations are eager to get stimulus. It is not true that the youth are intolerant and they cannot be challenged. And it's not true. It's not true that they are against everything that doesn't coincide with their sensitivity. And it's not true. always talk about the youth. We always talk about the youth as the youth was the same all the time, and what was the youth 10 years ago is not the youth anymore because they are 30 years or 40 years old. So this idea of the hypersensibility doesn't exist anymore. The pendulum movement has gone back, and the youth nowadays wants to be challenged. They want risky fictions. They want black humor. They want extreme things. This is what they do celebrate the most. And several years ago, they said that their sensitivity was hurt, but now they want to be provoked, and it is normal. It's we are not in a dictatorship yet. Andrea? Yes, it is true that when we talk about diversity, of course, there is a diversity in narration forms, but there are other kinds of diversity. And even though diversity belongs to one of our aims in our production company, we want to stay open narratively, but also in different points of view and give a voice to those sensitivities, etc. It belongs to our core goals, but it's very difficult to do it. And this is what I am constantly doing as part of my job. I try to break walls, to make space for it, and not to repeat traditional ways of explaining things. But nevertheless, there are a lot of internal barriers that are very difficult to break. But I completely agree with you that diversity is it's not included. It's very far away from our narration. I still hear about sentences like my 70-year-old mother does not understand this, and it is not true, because people who are 70 now, they are knowledgeable in television culture. Sorry, so we cannot say nowadays that my 70-year-old mother has no clue in audiovisual culture and in television culture, because they were raised in the 60s. So sorry, but it's not true. They could enjoy Susan Harris or Delia Fiallo and The Sopranos. Any other comment, idea at the back? I don't know if he is making the fascist move or if he has a question.
Sí que considero.
Talking about diversity, I believe that the lesbian collective is not visible at all in general. But Netflix deals with gay topics or lesbian topics. What is the series about this young guy with the big ears, Heartstopper? I love this description, the guy with the big ears. So this guy, well, this series, it's gays all the time, and lesbian. There is a female vampire, lesbian female vampires. Do you remember that series from the beginning of the millennium? I don't think if you can. Sugar Rush. I don't know if you can find it in a platform. Oh, it rings a bell. But lesbian female vampires, they shot it, but it was cancelled before it was projected at all. So, because there is nothing better for a girl to see their story on the screen. We all watch television series to see our life story there. So it is true that diversity is not there yet. I agree with you, but I'm going to contradict Xavi now. One of the first new millennial series that made lesbian lesbian relationships natural. I don't remember the name of the series. It was Two Mothers. I don't remember it. Well, I can look it up. It is ABC Family. It's ABC. It's the brand. Daisy World? No, not that one. No, it's not Idea World. Idea World has 7 seasons. No, E-World. No, that was Cable. I don't remember. I think the series was The Fosters. That's it. It was a lesbian couple that used to foster kids. And it was revolutionary because they reflected what Cosby showed, but from the lesbian world, a part of the society that many considered to be extravagant or strange, and it was a challenge for the more conventional. The most conventional American population, because the E-world was, well, every diversity in the lesbian world was reflected there. The E-world is very good, but it's still a niche series. It is cable. It is not to be watched by a 70-year-old woman, or it can be. Well, it is true that in Suma, the Javis always tells me, how is it possible that we didn't shoot a series on dicks? And we've been trying to shoot it, and I don't know why we haven't. And I was talking about this with a lesbian friend of mine, and she has a script for a lesbian series, but it is true that we would be the perfect production company for her, but we don't take the step, and I don't know why. Because we are convinced that we need to do it, but, well, lesbians are an army, but we were not able to do it, and I'm really trying, but I don't know why. Sorry, we can't hear. Because those who take to make the decisions are the executive producers, and they are men. They are all men. Sorry, we cannot hear without a mic.
En esa incompatibilidad entre
the incompatibility between CIS men and lesbians. We have talked about false documentary, generally serious, rupture of sitcom, etc. It is an extraordinary series that conciliates a lot of elements that belong to the 20th century series. And there is a joke in one of the chapters where Cam and Meat fight as a couple, and they say that there is a generalization that thinks that lesbians and gays have a good relationship, and it is not true. And they opened a cycle like the one with the yin and the yang part, and then it was like the statistic of how good CIS men and lesbians get along, and gay men and lesbians get along, etc. So we've been talking about cable television, because this is the new normal. Oh, we have forgotten to talk about Ryan Murphy. Any last question? Nothing? At the back? Nothing? Okay, so I believe that's all. I don't think we have forgotten anything, and if so, we can go and have a drink and continue talking. Thank you for coming. And go watch movies, please.